Welcome, class, and thank you for joining our presentation on Reed Hastings. My name is David Berger. Joining me in this presentation will be Jagger Click, Matthew Johnston, and Warren Wheeler. Our team chose Reed Hastings, the co-founder and executive chairman of Netflix, as the leader that we would study and reflect on throughout the entirety of this course. Hastings was born October 8, 1960, in Boston, Massachusetts. He attended high school at Buckingham Brown and Nicholas Private Day School. After graduating in 1978, he attended Bowdoin College as a mathematics major. Hastings created Netflix initially because of a late fee that came from returning a movie, making a mail-in based DVD rental subscription. When technology advanced, Reed Hastings soon followed, offering streaming services as movie rentals began to phase out. Reed Hastings' vision, best broken down, is revolutionizing entertainment through persistence and vision. The way this applies to his leadership style is the ability to constantly grow and adapt through changes in technology, along with empowering high-performing teams to keep innovation levels high and employee motivation higher. We will be covering the individual difference, team dynamics, motivation, leadership, culture, challenges, and finally, social influence. With week one, we start with individual differences. To start, openness. Reed Hastings has a history of being very innovative. During a time of Blockbuster, he decided to take a different approach to how we rent movies. Instead of going to a store, renting a movie for 5 days, and potentially being hit with expensive late fees, he created a new way to rent movies by sending them directly to your mailbox. This eliminated late fees, allowing you to keep a movie for an extended period of time. Netflix then transitioned to video streaming as technology advanced. His innovative mindset gives him a high openness rating. Conscientiousness. Reed's conscientiousness level is high. Considering his discipline and long-term focus, which he calls freedom and responsibility organization, Hastings has a tremendous amount of trust in his employees, but also holds them accountable. Extroversion. The book, No Rules Rules, gives off the impression that he has a medium extroversion level. He's not overly extravagant, but does express his confidence through communication and transparency. Reed gives credit when credit is due, which empowers his team. Agreeableness. In No Rules Rules, Hastings states, "We had one thing that Blockbuster did not, a culture that valued people over process, emphasizing innovation over efficiency, and had very few controls. Our culture, which fostered an achieving top performance with talent density and leading employees with context, not control, has allowed us to continually grow and change." With a dedication to innovation, he builds harmony with his team, placing him in the high category for agreeableness. Neuroticism. In his book, he talks about early days in the entrepreneurial market, where there can be many sleepless nights as time passes. Success followed. This made him more confident, which hardened his spirit of conflict. This shows how, over time, a person's traits can shift along the spectrum. When starting, he would be in the high category, but as time progressed, he became more stable, lowering him to the medium category. Implications. The big five personality dimensions would classify him as an entrepreneurial, people-centric leader. His ability to learn from his mistakes and make clear pivots to see what works when highlights the key aspects of the entrepreneurial mind. His talent development emphasis on trust for his employees, building human-centric culture. Limitations. Reed Hastings' biography, Struggle in the Life Year-Wise with Financial Condition, states that he had a very stable upbringing. This could lead to potentially high-risk choices in how he conducts business.
When talking about team dynamics and leadership, we should point out that Hastings didn't start out a perfect leader. At his first company, Pure Software, the culture was so messy, they practically replaced a sales rep every year, like it was an annual tradition. The disaster taught him what not to do. Mainly, don't build a team that feels like a revolving door. So at Netflix, he went the opposite direction. He built what he calls the dream team. Not a family, meaning everyone's supposed to be talented, dependable, and pick up the metaphorical trash. His philosophy of freedom and responsibility basically means I'll treat you like an adult, but please actually act like one. Hastings encouraged radical honesty, and his team had this rule: only say about someone what you would say to their face. Terrifying? Yes. Effective? Also yes. He faced some big challenges too. Talent retention in the tech world is tough, so he created policies like flexible vacation, essentially saying take time off responsibly, but please don't burn the place down. And of course, there's the 2011 Quickser fiasco. Instead of pretending nothing happened, Hastings owned up to the mistake publicly. Awkward? Sure, but it boosted internal trust because his team realized, okay, at least our CEO admits when he makes mistakes. What we learned from Hastings is that vision, trust, and clear culture can outperform micromanagement any day. Hastings proves that when you empower your people, treat them like grown-ups, and let them make smart risks, the team can innovate faster. And occasionally, they'll forgive you if you accidentally event Quickster.
Motivational strategies used by Reed Hastings within his own organization of Netflix. He focused on context, not control, in addition to talent density. Some of the elements that we saw and read through not only his books, but through interviews and podcasts, were that he gave really freedom and responsibility to his team, staff, and employees. With the strategies on the context, not control, as well as the talent densities, he removed formal vacation policies, eliminating traditional controls, systems, and procedures. He also asked the question, if a person was leaving the organization, would I really fight hard to keep them? Passing on this strategy to his own staff and managers, so that way they are holding on to the top performers, those who are the strongest, and implementing a culture of success and excellence. So with this, he also provided clear strategies and made those data-driven decisions. Reed Hastings focused on trust, high standards, purpose, and radical honesty. Leadership theories and style. When I was evaluating Reed Hastings, I identified several different approaches or leadership styles that he expressed in his mannerisms and attributes, as well as interviews, podcasts, or listening to his speeches. The two that I narrowed down and filtered were really transformational and strategic. Now, Reed, he was a visionary, he was innovative, and he provided growth opportunities for his team and organization, while also making those data-driven decision-making and influencing his team to also make those decisions using data. So Reed, he really elevated motivation beyond rewards and incentives. He promoted, again, innovation, change within the culture, change within the organization. As a visionary, he had transformed Netflix from a DVD mail-in rental service to a world-renowned streaming global content producer. For his high performance, he had extremely high and substantial expectations. By setting extraordinary high standards through talent density, he motivated employees to become elite performers, not just complacent workers. So by being a transformational and strategic leader, he really had an effect on his team, his employees, and his staff to build the confidence, create alignment, have motivation, and implement innovation.
Reed Hastings didn't just build Netflix. He built one of the most talked about company cultures in the world. In an interview at Stanford, he describes wanting a culture of reinvention, which basically means if things aren't breaking, you're not pushing hard enough. Organizational behavior textbooks literally use Netflix as a poster child for an innovative, open, fast-moving culture, which is a pretty solid thing to brag about. Hastings shaped this culture through language and values. His favorite phrase is that he wanted big-hearted champions who pick up the trash. Translation: care deeply, perform at a high level, and don't walk past problems like they're somebody else's. Cultural change has been a huge part of his leadership journey. At Pure Software, a culture became rigid and judgmental, so he essentially said, let's not do that again. When Netflix laid off a third of their employees during the dot-com crash, something surprisingly happened. Morale and productivity went up. Hastings realized that talent density and trust could outperform endless rules and processes. He eliminated travel policies and vacation tracking, which is every employee's dream. One story that really captures his approach is when a team spent thousands of hours and failed to make Netflix interface for the Wii. The manager was terrified to tell him. Hastings listened and simply said, "What's next?" No yelling, no drama, just forward motion. His cultural legacy is strong. The Netflix Culture Dex, created with Pat McCord, has been viewed millions of times and has shaped companies far beyond Netflix. In short, Hastings proved that when you trust people, give them clarity, remove pointless rules, and let them innovate, even if they sometimes blow up, you build a culture that survives long after the CEO steps away.
Navigating challenges and interpersonal dynamics. In week 6, the group looked at how Reed Hastings navigates challenges and interpersonal dynamics inside of Netflix. One of the clearest examples is how he handled the controversy around Dave Chappelle's The Closer. Netflix promotes inclusion as a core value, and the culture memo emphasizes that, along with recognizing bias, encouraging diverse perspectives, and fostering collaboration. But when employees raised concerns about the special being harmful to the trans community, those values collided with Hastings' commitment to artistic freedom. Hastings ultimately decided to support airing the special, later saying in an interview with The Verge that he would do it again and again, and that decision reinforced Netflix's identity as a creative-first entertainment company, but it also created tension internally. Some employees felt unheard, and this situation revealed gaps between Netflix's stated values and how those values felt in moments of conflict. On the interpersonal side, Hastings prefers transparency and open debate. His context not control philosophy encourages employees to challenge ideas directly, which is a big piece of Netflix's culture. But in this case, even with open dialogue, he relied on strategic clarity to finalize the decision, and it shows how he manages conflict. He listens, he allows discussion, but he ultimately protects the long-term direction that he believes in. Overall, the Chappelle situation shows both the strength and the friction in his leadership approach. Hastings leads through openness and firm decision-making, which helped Netflix stay focused, but it also can leave employees feeling disconnected during those emotionally charged issues. Social influence and storytelling. In week 7, the group looked at how Reed Hastings uses social influence in storytelling, and honestly, he does it in a way that feels less like a traditional leadership pressure and more like shaping how people see themselves at Netflix. One thing he's great at is framing the environment. He doesn't just describe Netflix as a company, he frames it as a place built for creativity, risk-taking, and what he calls the adult-level responsibility. When a leader sets a frame like that, people start adjusting their behavior to match it. It's a subtle but really powerful form of social influence. Hastings also uses identity-based influence, which basically means he gets people to connect with the kind of team that they want to be a part of. Instead of saying, do this, he shares stories about high-performing teams, taking bold swings, owning the decisions, and operating almost like entrepreneurs. People start aligning their behavior with that identity, not because somebody told them to, but because it feels like something they're supposed to be at Netflix. And then there's the storytelling side of it. He keeps things simple, no long policies, no corporate nonsense. The metaphors in the culture memo, like the idea of yearning for the sea instead of gathering wood, it sticks with people because they paint a picture. They give employees something to anchor to when they're making decisions without a ton of rules. All of this, the framing, the identity building, the simple storytelling, it shapes the culture in a way that guides behavior naturally. Hastings influences the organization not by controlling every decision, but by shaping how people think and how they interpret the culture around them.
I look at the evidence-based and try to critique any of the strategies or approaches that Hastings applied as a leader. So as I look at the keeper test, which would be, exceeding reliance, autonomy, where there would be task ambiguity, the question is asked, what could have been modified, reduced, or changed to produce a different yet valuable result? My personal opinion, I think instead of creating a keeper test, Netflix could have implemented some type of formal performance improvement or any type of a roadmap or pathway, so that way they could preserve performance standards while also offering opportunities for growth and development. For the autonomy element, I think just offering greater guidance from the leadership approach, instead of being more transformational or strategic, maybe leaning into a situational leadership approach.
One critique of Reed Hastings' leadership is that Netflix's culture of radical candor sometimes can cross the line in what employees call radical brutality. Hastings encourages people to give direct, face-to-face feedback, which can be incredibly productive. But without structure, it can become unnecessarily harsh. From an organizational behavior perspective, Robbins and Judge emphasizes the effective feedback must balance supportive communication with corrective guidance. When candor is pushed too far, teams experience low cohesion, higher defensiveness, and a hit to overall morale. What Hastings could have done differently is build a training around constructive feedback, teaching employees to be honest, but in a way that maintains respect and psychological safety. In other words, keep the candor, but add some humanity so the message lands without damaging people or culture.
One critique, or one thing that Reed Hastings could have done differently, is put more focus on the psychological safety, especially during high tension moments like the Dave Chappelle situation and the no rules rules. Hastings talks a lot about freedom and responsibility, and it drove to incredible innovation. But at the same time, when employees raised concerns about inclusion, many of them felt like their voices really didn't matter compared to the push for creative freedom. A stronger foundation of a psychological safety, the idea that people can speak up without feeling dismissed, it could have helped. It wouldn't require changing Netflix's whole culture, but just creating clearer spaces for employees to express concerns and feel heard before big decisions were finalized. If Hastings had built more of that, he could have kept the benefits of Netflix's high-performance culture while reducing the internal tension that surfaced in moments like the Chappelle controversy.
For my critique on Reed Hastings, I find that he surrounds himself with top performers and limited rules. While this can be great for most, it often happens that the good employees are typically left in the dust, as he only wants those that excel. He has created a culture that some find to lack empathy, focusing more on efficiency. Being able to develop a team will not only allow you to grow as an individual, but also allow your members to become the top performers that he is initially looking for. Developing employees allows for higher retention, increased customer satisfaction, and creates a stronger culture within the company, according to the article Employee Training and Development by Renee Tremblay.
In conclusion, Reed Hastings, a visionary, a strategic leader. He was known to be an effective and impactful leader by not only his organization, but other companies and organizations globally. He exemplified his leadership styles and approaches both in current and prior business endeavors. He is a highly influential visionary with an ability to design organizational cultures for optimal performances. Netflix, one of his businesses, is a testament of his talent and extraordinary approach.